Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. I am your host, June Archer. This is the Winner Circle. And today, my guest, as I'm always excited to meet and interview different people who are doing some amazing things, who, you have not yet seen them, but they're doing some amazing things, and just those gems that we try to pull out from everybody. This young lady is no different. Cuban-American actress, the Bold and the Beautiful. You might have seen her there. She currently just finished wrapping up Two Sisters and the Piano, directed by Pulitzer Prize winning Neela Cruz. She is amazing. She is in the warm state of Los Angeles, California. I am so jealous. Ladies and gentlemen, Thais Menendez. Thais, how are you doing today?
Hi, June. Thank you for that fabulous introduction. I'm wonderful. Happy to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to chat.
So excited to have you. As we were saying backstage, it is just a pleasure to just wake up and just be present.
hmm
And with that, I ask you, what are the things that make you happy the moment that you wake up? Obviously, leading with gratitude, and obviously a nice cup of something warm.
I love that question. I'm also, in addition to my work as an actress, I'm a yoga teacher. So I'm very tuned into the mindfulness component of life. On a good day, I will wake up, I'll do a little meditation, nothing fancy, 5 minutes. I'll just have my morning sit, make my coffee, maybe I'll journal. Now, that's an ideal day. I'm not saying that I don't scroll on my phone just like everybody else, but just getting the day started with a little bit of quiet time for myself always sets me up, especially if I have a busy day.
Now, I want to dive into this yoga piece as we are in a state of, how can I say it? The world is in a place where we could do a little bit better with putting our phone down, having some mindfulness. How important is it? Well, let me back up. When did you get into yoga? And why is it important for you?
I love that, June. I've been a yoga teacher for 10 years now. And before that I was practicing since high school. My mother got me into it because I think she knew that I could use a little soul searching. That wasn't church. Because she was like, we're gonna get you here. So I've been a yoga teacher for 10 years. I find that I've met so many different kinds of people on different parts of their journey. And usually, what happens at the end of a yoga class, not all the time, but people will come up to me after and they'll kind of share what's going on in their lives and how grateful they are that they came to the class. For me, that's what makes it worth it. I know the power of yoga and how much it can help us like take a moment for ourselves. So when I see that other people are getting that as well, that's the purpose. I always say I'm not here to be the sage on the stage. I'm the guide on the side. So if I can just be there for you to find your process and your journey, that's the goal for me as a yoga teacher.
What is a misconception about yoga? I know that people were turned off many moons ago with hot yoga and things. Like, what is a misconception about yoga? Is it meditation? Is it exercise? For those who don't really know, and if you wanted to welcome someone into that world, what is it, and what is the misconception?
Well, first of all, June, I want to know before I answer that question, what do you think about when I say, if come to my yoga class, how does that make you feel? What would you say about that?
I start with thinking, oh, it's a lot of stretching. I am not athletic, so I don't know how well I'm going to do.
That's it. That's the misconception. And that's why I asked you because I knew a lot of folks say, well, I'm not flexible, right? So what am I going to do in this class? And I get it. Like you see these pictures of people on Instagram doing all these crazy poses, fine. But we do yoga to get flexible in the body and in here, right? So that's what I always tell people. I say the biggest misconception is that you have to be flexible to do yoga. That's why we do yoga to get flexible.
Okay, okay. So I'm not the only one.
You're not the only one. My fiance, same. When we first started dating, he was like, I can't do yoga, I can't do this, da, da, da. And I showed him all the ways to modify his practice. And sure enough, he does it every single day now before going into work at the hospital. So rock on.
Wow, that
Yeah.
that's beautiful. How important is it for those who are looking for something different, whether it's yoga, whether it's meditation, whether it's prayer, to find some time to practice some of these disciplines to remain grounded and be centered?
I think it's so important, especially as creatives that we are. Um, Naturally, when you lead a creative life, whether it's in your career or in your hobbies, um, you're going to be open to a lot more vulnerability and sensibility, whether it's because you're putting yourself out there for an audition, or you're putting yourself out there with a new project that you hope will do well. If you don't have that inner life, that mindset kind of in line as much as you can, it's going to be a lot harder. You're going to be a lot less happy, I think. So while I think that anyone can benefit from a little mindfulness in their life, I especially encourage all my creatives out there to tap in, get quiet, journal, find what works for you, go on a walk. For me, the mindset portion of my career journey has been the most important, the most helpful.
Yeah, how does that help you as a creative when you're talking about, I mean, Bold and the Beautiful, you're an actor who is on stage, like, how does that help you with audition? How does that help you to get into character night in and night out, especially when you're talking about being on stage? You just
Oh
wrapped
yeah.
up Two Sisters and a Piano. I am certain there are moments where right before you go on stage, you need that moment, whether it's prayer, whether it's meditation, whether it's yoga. How important has it been for you as a creative to use this discipline to get focused for a part or get on stage?
I'll give you two bullets on that. The first one is before I've booked the job, whether it's a play or a film, you got to let go. You got to get really good at letting go. You do your best work and you say, if that's for me, it won't go by me. It's what my grandmother always used to say, lo que está para ti, nadie te lo quita. What's for you won't go by you. Cultivating that mindset is going to save you a lot of tears because, as you know from your experience in the industry, it's mostly no's.
Right.
So I think the mindset work helps me to divorce my identity from my job. I am so much more than an actor who books a job. I am a fiance, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a friend. I live a good life. I walk in gratitude so that when I get that 100th no, I'm like, all right, not this one. Maybe it's the next one. So that's why that portion is incredibly important. When I'm about to go on stage, especially in the theater, because we know that in film and TV, you can just yell cut if something goes wrong.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
No shade to my film and TV people. I myself, I'm a film and TV artist. Like, I love it. But in the theater, it's a different kind of ball game. It's pretty hardcore. So whenever I go on stage, I always ask my ancestors. This is like kind of a vulnerable thing. I've never really told anyone outside my circle this, June, but like, I will literally always stop and look up and say, ancestors be with me. Theater gods be with me, because there's a lot of superstition in the theater, right? Like, we always say that there's some theater ghosts in every theater. So I think that a level of spirituality, whether it's tied to religion or your own spirituality, is so crucial. And I know a lot of theater artists specifically who feel the same. Like, I'm saying a prayer before I go on stage. It is in your hands.
I,
Yeah.
I love that. I want to drill down on something that you just mentioned, letting go. What does that mean? Because there are people who have negative people around them. They have negative environments that they have to continuously go back into day in and day out. What does it mean to let go, Thais?
June. I say this as someone who is practicing this all the time. It's not something that I'm perfect at. It's easy to say let go, and then you get this huge audition and you're just like refreshing your email every 5 seconds to see if your agent is reaching out, right? It's hard to do that. What I would say is tap into your higher self. Ask yourself, like, not to not quote goddess Michelle Obama, but when they go low, we go high. So specifically, if negative people are the issue, that's what I would say. That's what's always helped me. What would my higher self do here, right? Lower self, ego driven self would probably be like, I don't need to apologize to that person. They did something wrong to me. Like, I don't want to deal with that. Higher self would say, how can I call this person in with a sorry? Is there something that I can say to this person? Is there something that I can do? How would I manage this place from a place of light? Every time I come from a higher self place, it always works out in my favor. Whether that means the solution to the problem, I book something, I'm okay with not booking something. So tap into the higher self, whatever that looks like for you.
That's a beautiful answer.
Yeah.
How did you fall in love with acting, Thais?
Hmm.
Or when did you fall in love with acting?
Oh my goodness. I specifically remember when I was like in middle school. I'd been acting and taking classes and stuff as a kid, but I remember like I was obsessed with the movie Pirates of the Caribbean and I printed out the whole script. I know it's so nerdy. And like my parents were like, "Wow, like you're memorizing all of these lines." Like and I'm like, "Yeah, I just love the movie so much." And they started to put me into more things and then in high school I was like the theater girl. And I won like the big senior award for theater at my high school, and then I went off to college and I studied it. So it kind of like started young, and then I just never stopped. And I always knew I wanted to study acting. I knew that that's what I wanted to do. It took me a little while to admit that I wanted to pursue the career full force, but once I did, I was like, man, we're in it. We're in it.
That's a beautiful thing. What for me, as you can see, I have a T-shirt that says the June Archer School of Arts. We have
I saw that.
taken art out of school. We have taken music out of school. How important or why is it important, Thais, for us to support our young people in arts and culture in school, and instead of just focusing on STEM? I'm not mad at STEM, but you can't have STEM without the A, because arts is the common denominator when you talk about STEAM. Why is it important that we focus on bringing the arts back into school?
June, first of all, you asked such profound and well thought out questions, and I'm really grateful for that because they make me think. I am actually also an educator. I've worked with young people in many different capacities, but specifically in theater. So when I lived in DC and was doing theater there, I often went into DC public schools to teach workshops on Shakespeare. And I had, Latino kids, Black kids, like all kinds of different kids who had never been exposed to Shakespeare. And that was my experience too as a Latina growing up. I didn't think that something like Shakespeare was for me. It just so happened I was working at the Shakespeare Theater Company at that time. And getting to teach those kids about Shakespeare, but theater and arts in general made me realize how important it is to bring the arts into schools. I mean, it's to me, it makes no sense that we would ever cut an arts program. It's not frivolous. It's not extra. It's crucial. I mean, it's like what makes us human, right? The fact that we put art out there. So I think it is incredibly important. It also helps you develop like soft skills that we talk about, right? Compassion,
Right.
connection, right? Like human understanding. So I am all for it. I love teaching drama to kids, and I think it's a shame that more schools aren't prioritizing it at this time. Yeah.
Have you ever, and if you have, can you give us an example of an obstacle that you had to navigate as a Cuban American because you had to code switch or you felt like an outsider? Have you ever had to code switch? I like to say double dutch in situations where you're like, man, no one gave me the playbook for this situation or this scenario.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Well, it happens to me a lot actually. And I'm a light skinned Latina. So there are a lot of different issues within Latinidad that different folks face. For me personally, it's always A, you're too white, or B, you're not Latina enough, or you're not white enough, right? So you're either too white or you're not white enough. So it's like, all right, well, which am I? And if I spent any time, June, listening to that noise, I would quit the industry. So I try not to. The last four projects that I've worked on all happen to be not just Latino stories, but Cuban stories, which is exactly who I am. So I know the work is there, it'll come. Um, One thing I remember, a specific story for you, is I was coming in for a small role on a very big film at the time. It went straight to, it was like one of those Netflix releases, but it was big film. And they called me in to do what was a smaller part for this like Latina thing. And I'm in the fitting, okay, wearing this pretty little skimpy costume because they were like this girl who was performing in like a nightclub or something. And I remember all the costume people were just kind of like sending pictures to the director and they were getting really awkward. And then like 10 minutes later, they're suddenly changing my costume. And I said, is there something going on? Like, they're like, oh, we're just going to put you in this other role and this other thing. We changed our mind. And I was like, can you just be real with me? Like, what was the issue? And they said, the director thinks you look too white. And I was like, damn, I was like, okay. And you have to just, it was the costumer was being so sympathetic, but I was like, oh my God, it's real. It happens. Right. So yeah, got to keep moving forward and block out the noise.
How do you block out the noise? Let's talk to the person who's listening or watching today, who I always like to say can't see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Ooh.
How do you block out that noise for you? What is a key to success for those who are struggling with blocking out that noise?
Find your people and lean on them when you need to, right? Every relationship should be a give and take, but when I think about the people around me, I am so grateful that I have them. Not just my fiance and my family, but my close friends, both fellow actors, anyone who is in your industry, whatever that industry might be. Find your people and cultivate those relationships, because sometimes, no matter how much mindset work you do, no matter how much therapy you do, it's not enough. You need to have your community. So that's what I would say. I know there are times when I'm just like feeling so insecure, whatever it is, and I'll say something to a close actor friend of mine or my fiance, and they'll just give me a little perspective that I wasn't considering before, and that helps a lot. Like having your community, having your people, I would say, if you can cultivate those relationships, and that'll go a long way.
I believe in the village concept. That is the reason why the show is called the Winner Circle, to surround
Exactly.
yourself with like-minded people, right?
Yes. Yes,
Um,
indeed.
I want to talk about Two Sisters in the Piano. How was that experience to be able to, in Miami, where there's a large Cuban American population? How was that reception? How did it feel to work alongside Neela Cruz?
Oh my goodness, June. It was literally a dream come true. I remember when I first met Nilo Cruz, I wrote down in my journal that night, I will work with Nilo one day. And almost a year later, sure enough, here we are. So Nilo, like you said, is a Pulitzer Prize winning playwright. He was actually the first Latino to win that prize for drama. And he directed the play as well, which was extra special. I'm from Miami, so going home to do a play was like a breath of fresh air. I still have my grandma. She came to see the play. Like, it was really special. Yeah, I
That's
know. It was
awesome.
great. It was amazing. And it is a story about Cuba. It's a story about two women under house arrest for speaking out against the government. I got to play a character inspired by a real life woman who is still alive, Maria Elena Cruz Varela. She got put in jail for 2 years for writing out against the government in the 90s, and then they put her under house arrest. So really strong character that I got to play. It was an amazing experience. The Cuban-American community really resonated with it. I had so many people come up to me after the show with tears in their eyes, and they were like, this was my story. Like, that happened to us. And that to me is like one of the main reasons why I do what I do, that connection for people. Yeah.
That that's beautiful. I wanna ask you this. You just mentioned abuela, right?
Yeah.
For you, earlier you talked about what's for you will never go by you. What's for you is for you. Is there a saying that abuela would tell you as a young person that you understand now more than ever as an adult that you could share with us? And I don't mind you sharing it in your native language, but obviously translate it for us. But what what did you learn from abuela, or what did she used to tell you that resonates today?
Well, that's the main one. Lo que está para ti, nadie te lo quita. What's for you won't go by you. She also taught me something. Puedes tener envidia sana, which is another way of saying it's okay to have healthy envy. And I didn't really understand what that meant for a while.
Mm,
Healthy envy, what does that mean? And she always told me, if you see that somebody has something or achieves something that you wanted and that you didn't get, rather than thinking, oh, that person got this and I'm going to be a sourpuss about it, what if you said, good for them, they got that thing that I really want, telling me? What is the universe pointing to for me there? That's clearly something that I really want. How can I work for that? Celebrate that person, know that if they did it, maybe you can too, and flip that around. And I've never forgotten that. Envidia sana, healthy envy, right? Because everyone's always saying, oh, you can't be envious or jealous. But it's like, what if your envy is just telling you what you really want? Like what is actually important to you and what's the noise that you can filter out? So yeah, abuela's got a lot of them, but that was just one that came to me. So there we go.
Well, it is a blessing to still have abuela in your life. Uh, Thais, music is a soundtrack to our lives. And of course, being Cuban American, I know that you love music. As music is a soundtrack to our lives, what song best represents your journey up to this point, or what artist and their catalog of music embodies your journey up to this point?
Ooh, that is such a good question and a challenging one. The first thing that came to my mind was Buena Vista Social Club. They're just a very classic Cuban band. And a lot of my artistry, a lot of my acting journey has centered around Cuban stories. Obviously, there have been other things, but I think Buena Vista Social Club fills me with a sense of not just nostalgia, but also like a deep connection to my culture. And that is one of my guiding lights as an artist is my culture. So anything by them, anyone listening, if you probably are familiar with them because they're super famous, but Buena Vista Social Club is amazing and their story is amazing too. Good old Cuban music. Can't go wrong with that.
You can't go wrong. You're from Miami, you're living in LA, Cuban
Yes.
roots. How
Yes.
important is it for young people to get their passport, to see past their 4 blocks, or to see past city limits, to be able to travel the world and see something different, experience different cultures? I don't know if you've been back to Cuba or how often you get to go, but how important is it to travel and get a passport to see the world from a different perspective?
So important. You know, if you have the if you are able to make it happen for yourself to travel, because obviously it's there's a lot of challenges involved, I highly recommend it. It's one of my biggest priorities. I will save up my money instead of buying a purse, which is a good too. I'll say, how can I put this into my travel fund, you know? Because we really like to travel. I have not been back to Cuba yet. We were gonna go in 2020, but it's a painful thing for my family. So they're never like, they don't mind us going, but they're never going to be the ones to organize the family trip. Do you know what I mean? So my brother and I are hoping to go this year. And I know that it'll be a pilgrimage. Like going back to our people's like soil is going to be so emotional. And I can't wait to do that. But what do they say? That quote, if you, those who do not travel, the world is a book and those who do not travel only read one page. If you can, even just like get out there, go to a different neighborhood. And like here in LA, Boyle Heights, go get some authentic Mexican food and like where they only speak Spanish. Like you can travel within your own community too. It's
I
important.
I love that. No one ever thinks of that. I
You know
love
what I
it.
mean?
Thais, you are a beautiful soul and an amazing spirit. Where can we follow you? How can we continue to see what you're doing? What's next for you?
Well, currently we are submitting our my production company just finished its first short film. It's called Quien Demanda Productions, which is a Cuban phrase. And so we're doing some film festival stuff. So follow me on Instagram. It's at Thais Marie. That's my first name, Thais, middle name Marie, Marie. For any updates about the film. I'm also getting married, so that's like the big production that yeah, that's the big production that I'm planning right now. But we'll see. I have a couple auditions today, so gods, ancestors,
Ancestors, take care, Thais. Be
take care
focused,
of me.
be centered. You
Yeah.
will do amazing. I know you will. I hope that you take all of this energy into those auditions and do what you do and be the best version of yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, please like her, follow her, support her if she's in your town doing whatever it is she's doing. If you happen to turn the channel or turn on one of those platforms and those streaming services, make sure you take a little time because, as she said, what is for you will never go by you. But when you see someone doing what it is that you love, that jealous envy or that envious love is nothing wrong. All it does is inspire and motivate you to want those things for yourself. Thais, thank you so much. I love you. We love you. Continue doing what you're doing. This is June Archer. This is the Winner Circle. Thank you so much for tuning in. And as I always like to say, never leave the opportunity undone to tell somebody that you love them. It might be the last opportunity you have to do so. I love you. Keep doing what you're doing. Peace.